Sprint qualifying in Miami is over, and for the first time in his very short F1 career, Kimi Antonelli takes pole position for the sprint race. But what did we learn? Well, in today's video I'm going to be taking a look at the data and doing an analysis from sprint qualifying. If you enjoy the video then please hit the like button and subscribe for more F1 content. Now though, let's get into the video. As usual I'll be talking about the top teams later on, so please do stick around for that. Yep, sprint qualifying is over, and the young Kimi Antonelli takes his first ever pole position in an incredible session, as Mercedes power looked to be pretty dominant, as 4 of the top 5 cars were all powered by Mercedes. But for Kimi Antonelli, how did his lap times change during the session? Well, let's take a look at all of his laps from SQ1 to SQ3. As a reminder, SQ1 and SQ2 took place on medium tyres and SQ3 was on soft tyres. Let's now compare his first lap from SQ1 to his pole position lap in SQ3 to see how the times changed. And when you look at these two laps, you can really see where the medium and soft tyres have a difference. On the exit of turn 1, Antonelli gets great traction on the softs and immediately pulls away. Then through the medium speed corners on the soft tyres, Antonelli carries an insane amount of speed and gains about half a second through this section alone. Then, going through the very slow corners after the hairpin here, you can see Antonelli on the soft tyres is able to just change direction quickly and gains another half a second from his first qualifying lap. Altogether between the two laps, Kimi Antonelli is 1.4 seconds faster from SQ1 to SQ3, which is a mixture of both having a faster track and also softer tyres. So we've seen how the times changed, but let's now take a look at the top speeds that the teams were able to reach, so that we can see what teams are looking fast and what teams are looking a bit slow down the straights. And what can we see here? Well, what we can see here is that the fastest car overall in a straight line was both Williams and Sauber, as they both managed to reach a top speed of 342 km per hour. Behind them, the majority were able to reach 341 or 340 km per hour. The only real exception to this was Mclaren, as they only reached 337 km per hour and once again were very slow in a straight line. And for Mclaren, I feel like this has because they've chosen to once again run with more downforce, which is fine until they have to actually try and overtake another car on track, and with them not being first and second, McLaren have made winning the sprint race a little bit more tricky, because now they actually have to overtake Kimi Antonelli on track instead of starting ahead of him. For the rookies then, Kimi Antonelli, as we have already mentioned, had an incredible performance and found himself on sprint pole. He will be looking like he is going to win it, and we will be talking more about how he actually got there a little bit later on, so of course please do stick around for that. Another rookie though who had a very strong performance was once again Isaac Hadjar, as a Racing Bulls driver is once again showing that he really does belong in F1, as he is not only the second fastest rookie, but he is also the second fastest midfield driver, and he is just behind Alex Albon in the Williams. And well, Hadjar is in a great position to potentially get a couple of points on the board in the sprint race for Racing Bulls. I just want to say, if you are enjoying the video so far, then I would really appreciate it if you hit the like button and subscribe for more F1 content. Now though, let's get back to the video and let's talk about Ferrari. For Ferrari then, it was a tricky start to the weekend, as they look like right now they are the 4th fastest team this weekend, as Charles Leclerc and Lewis Hamilton could do nothing about Max Verstappen, McLaren and Mercedes, as they are lining up in 6th and 7th place on the grid. But there is a couple of attempts between the two drivers. So let's compare the fastest lap then of Charles Leclerc to teammate Lewis Hamilton, so we can see where Hamilton lost out against his teammates. And when you look at these two laps, they're actually very similar, which for Lewis Hamilton is a big step forward and shows how he has improved at least so far this weekend. Recently, there has been some obvious differences between them, but here it's not that different between them, and there is actually a lot of similarities. The main difference though looks to be here, where Charles Leclerc carries just a little bit more speed. It has to be said though that the Ferrari has had some balance issues so far this weekend, and they've really looked like a bit of a handful, and it looks like Lewis might have just got a bit of a snap in this section. For Ferrari then, they do have to do some work, because this is not good enough from them. They have some obvious balance issues that do need sorting after the sprint race before Grand Prix qualifying gets underway. That being said, it is good to see Lewis Hamilton being closer to teammate Charles Leclerc, and we could see a bit of a battle between them in the sprint race. For Red Bull then, it is Max Verstappen lining up in 4th place on the grid, and to be honest, I think that is slightly further up the grid than where he should be. It looks like Mercedes and McLaren do have the edge this weekend, but still, Max was able to get in the mix like he does so brilliantly. He does have a floor upgrade that teammate Yuki Tsunoda doesn't have this weekend, and it has to be said, it looks as though that upgrade is working out for them. For teammate Tsunoda, he went out in Q1, after being unable to set a second lap time to try and get himself through to Q2. For Max then, let's compare his lap to that of Kimi Antonelli. When you look at these two laps, you can see that early on, Verstappen has the edge over Kimi Antonelli. As we tend to see in the high-speed corners, Verstappen is absolutely flying, and he was really impressive through here like he always is. But down the straights, the Mercedes car was a bit faster, and Antonelli then gains back some time straight away. Through Sector 2 and Sector 3 though, you can see that Antonelli gains back some more time, and the reason for this is because Verstappen did a second lap on the soft tyres, and I think they were just starting to give up on him, whereas Antonelli was still on his first laps on the soft tyres. Also, Red Bull in general does tend to be a little bit weaker when it comes to those slower speed corners that we do see after the hairpin at this circuit. For Verstappen then, he can be very happy with this, and he can now get in amongst it with the McLaren drivers at the start of the sprint race and try to gain back some points from both Piastri and Lando Norris. For Mercedes, it is pole position for Kimi Antonelli for the sprint race, and George Russell is lining up in 5th place, and Mercedes this weekend, at least so far, genuinely look like they are in competition with McLaren. Mercedes powered cars have taken fresh power units this weekend, and it looks like it has given them a slight edge. Miami is a power sensitive circuit, so it is one where it would actually make sense to do this. Let's now compare then the laps of the two Mercedes drivers to see how Antonelli got onto pole position and George Russell found himself in P5. Comparing the two laps, we see something similar to what we have just now seen between Verstappen and Antonelli, and that is Antonelli just got better as the lap went on, and you can see that through the slow speed corners. Antonelli just gets a better run through there and carries that advantage. He did set the lap a little bit later on compared to George Russell, and well, now Kimi Antonelli finds himself in prime position to win his first race in F1. Admittedly, it is a sprint race and not a Grand Prix, but Mercedes genuinely look like they're in a position to be very strong this weekend and could even win both races this weekend. And finally for McLaren then, it is once again Oscar Piastri who is the lead driver of the two drivers, but Lando Norris is at least hot on his heels as he kept it all together during this session, and Lando did exactly what he needed to do. He is in position where he can now compete against Oscar Piastri instead of starting several places down the order. And well, let's now compare the lap times of the two drivers to see where the small differences were between them. And when you look at these two laps, it is actually very interesting. In Sector 1, it looks as though it is advantage Lando Norris, as Lando gets a stronger exit from the first corner and carries that advantage through those first few corners. But then on the exit of the hairpin here, it looks as though Piastri does get a slightly better exit, and from there takes the advantage. The next area where Piastri has an advantage is going into the last main braking zone, where Oscar brakes later and gains a tenth or two, which just gives him the edge over teammate Lando Norris. And in the sprint race, if Piastri can hold off Lando at the start, then I do think he will beat his teammate and gain one more point of an advantage over Lando Norris in the Drivers' Championship. So that was sprint qualifying. The question is, what do you guys think will happen in the sprint race? In the comment section down below, please do let me know. And as always, comment, leave a like and subscribe for more F1 content. Thank you all so much for watching.